Alright. How dare you, Chompy? Dare you come into my house and use that word? Shay, what have you done? Use lavender to relax when your nerves are frayed. Yes. Lavender is great. Lavender is great. Alright. Hello. Hi, YouTube. How's it going? We are back for more reading. Been streaming over on Twitch for the past hour and a half already. If you ever want to come and join us for the entire stream, which has a lot more chaos and also ASMR triggers, which feels like contraindications, but yeah, that happens over on Twitch. Hi Buddha, hi Sean, hi Ilk, hi Fitch. Yes, we are in weird moods tonight, and we're gonna read a weird book. At least I think it's pretty safe to assume that we are, because this isn't our first rodeo with L. Frank Baum. No, it is not. We've been reading through the Wizard of Oz series. Well, this is book number 7. We spread them out though. You can't just go in, like, you need to space them out. There's only so much L. Frank Baum you can take at a time. Thank you, Sean. Sean has just popped a comment in chat. It's pinned in both the Twitch and the YouTube chats. If you want to read along with that with us, you can download the book for absolutely free from Project Gutenberg. Hey Leia. Oh yeah, let me turn on the multi-chat in OBS. Awesome. Yeah, if any of you are able to open up an extra window over somewhere on your device to have the YouTube stream open as well, that really helps with watch hours, so that's awesome. But also no pressure, you know, do whatever is most comfortable for you. YouTube sounds different for you, really? Is it a PDF? From Project Gutenberg, it gives you a whole variety. So the ones that I download are for Kindle, and then I have, you know, the Kindle desktop app and also the Kindle app on my phone. And so you can open in there, but I think you can also open as a PDF, maybe as like other EPUB formats. Also, you can just open it in a browser tab, so you don't have to download it at all. You can just open it in a browser tab and read along if you'd like. So, yeah, lots of options. But thank you guys that are over supporting the YouTube, and of course, as always, thank you everyone over supporting the Twitch. Okay, we are gonna be diving in then. Oh, and also, for context, for the YouTube channel, in case anyone, you know, is watching this later, we started doing a thing. I think it was last book that we started doing it. We started to see patterns with L. Frank Baum. So we started playing bingo, and we just finished coming up with our updated bingo board for this book. And so if you see that coming up, we will be updating this as we tick things off. So yeah. Yakanono. Hello, hello. All right. Oops. There we go. All right. He's become predictable. Now this book, okay, little bit of a recap. Obviously I'm not going to recap like all the books, but the last book is important to touch on a little bit because it was supposed to be the final Oz book. And in that story, Uncle Henry was about to lose the farm. And even though they thought that Dorothy was making shit up about Oz, they were like, well, wherever she wanders off to, whenever she wanders off, she comes back okay, so I guess the friends she's making aren't so evil. And so they tell her, like, can you just, like, go away? And they're just planning to go, like, you know, live in the workhouse or something. And then Dorothy's like, no, you don't get it. Like, I'm a princess in Oz, and we'll just bring you. So then she just kind of, like, kidnaps her aunt and uncle against their will and brings them to Oz. And the Gnome King tries to invade, and so Ozma places a spell around Oz, basically to prevent any interaction between the rest of the world and the fairylands, which include Oz. Maddie, Chatty Maddie, thank you for the raid. Welcome in. Hello, hello. You're just on time for the story time. How was your stream tonight? Oz seems to dip in and out of very dark gray ethics. It's true. It's true. But when you think about the fact that they are fairylands and that fairylands do not adhere to the same rules of morality that the human world does, in, like, across the board, that tends to be a theme. Yeah. It was fun. Awesome. You guys make sure you're following Chatty Maddie. What were you guys doing tonight? So yes, it was supposed to be, so Dorothy and her aunt and her uncle and Toto, no mention of Eureka the kitten. So I don't know, did she die on the farm? We don't know. Anyways, have gone to live permanently in Oz, and then Ozma supposedly sealed off Oz and the surrounding fairylands from the rest of the human world, because unlike the Wizard of Oz classic movie, where it's very much heavily suggesting that Dorothy just hit her head really hard and dreamed it all, in the books, it's meant to be taken at face value that Oz is a real place on this earth that you can travel to in the middle of a desert. So, yeah. However, just a few years after Baum wrote that book, he got into some financial troubles and had to declare bankruptcy, and was forced to start writing the Oz books again because they were his kind of easy ticket to make money, even though by book number 6 you can kind of feel his resentment already. So I am very curious to see the tone of this one. Oh my goodness, Artax. Sounds like you had fun though. Is the bingo chart in the Discord? Ooh. No, it isn't. I could put it up there, but it won't update in real time, obviously. You were writing your second novel on stream? Amazing, Maddie. Only 4 chapters left to write? That is so exciting. That's so exciting. Congratulations. Here, let me download, because that's a solid suggestion to put it in the Discord so that you guys can reference it. Of course, you can always ask me to bring it up on stream, but this makes sense. Okay. Oops. Okay. You rolled 3 criticals in a row. That's always a good night. Awesome. Hi, Tyra. I'm doing well. How are you? It's good to see you. Alright, I'm gonna pop it up in the stream clips channel of the Discord if you want to reference it. You guys need to stop posting horrible screenshots. Oh, you're such gremlins. Okay. Alright, it is up in the stream clips channel in the Discord if you want to reference it at your leisure, but of course, please feel free to ask me to pull it up on stream whenever. Okay. Ah. Oh my god. It's fine. I'm fine. There we go. You are my gremlins. Little bookworms. Okay. Let's jump into it. I want to add one more little bit of context. We do tend to... Okay, wait. Let me take responsibility. I do tend to interrupt the Oz books more with, like, outbursts at L. Frank Baum. Is kind of part... We kind of, like, hate read them, in a way. And I have a lot of fun doing it. But I do want to perhaps reassure some people that's not how the reading normally goes here. It is a special... It's a special case thing for L. Frank Baum. So... And we do spread these books out, so we don't get, like, sick of them. Okay. We are starting on a strong note with this amazing illustration. Hold on, let me add it to here instead of having to switch windows the whole time. Let me bring up the Kindle here. It's gonna jump scare you a little bit. Isn't she lovely? This is our heroine. Wowzers. I mean... Yeah. So... That's what we're reading. Oh, wait. I put it away prematurely. Here's Dorothy. Wait, is that Dorothy? It's a little girl. We don't know if Dorothy's in this book or not. Okay. Oh, that looks like the Scarecrow. Affectionately dedicated to my young friend Summer Hamilton Britton. How young is your young friend, L. Frank Baum? What kind of friend was your young friend? Because she does not look like a child, but also she doesn't quite look like an adult. You know? Oh, Lord, also premature. I don't know who this charming gentleman is. Nunky, maybe? Nunky, possibly? We're gonna see. Okay, there we go. Alright. Are we all excited? Have I whetted your appetites? Shaggy Man? I don't think it is the Shaggy Man. But it's possible. Okay. Santa? I mean, Santa has appeared in Oz before, so it's not out of the question. Okay. Oh yeah, the illustrations in these books are something. Okay. The appetite is moist. Whetted. Okay. How's the volume sounding? All good? Okay. The Patchwork Girl of Oz by L. Frank Baum. Prologue. Through the kindness of Dorothy Gale of Kansas, afterward Princess Dorothy of Oz, an humble writer in the United States of America was once appointed Royal Historian of Oz, with the privilege of writing the chronicle of that wonderful fairyland. But after making 6 books about the adventures of those interesting but queer people who live in the land of Oz, the historian learned with sorrow that, by an edict of the supreme ruler, Ozma of Oz, her country would thereafter be rendered invisible to all who lived outside its borders, and that all communication with Oz would, in the future, be cut off. The children who had learned to look for the books about Oz and who loved the stories about the gay and happy people inhabiting that favored country were as sorry as their historian that there could be no more books of Oz stories. They wrote many letters asking if the historian did not know of some adventures to write about that had happened before the land of Oz was shut out from all the rest of the world, but he did not know of any. Finally, one of the children inquired why he couldn't hear from Princess Dorothy by wireless telegraph, which would enable her to communicate to the historian whatever happened in the far-off land of Oz without his seeing her, or even knowing just where Oz is. Hi, Power Smoker. Hello. Thank you for the follow. He's saying this like it wasn't all just his desire to stop writing about it. Oh yeah, like the facade is that it's all real. Yeah. It's fine to hate read Baum if he's hate writing it. Yes, exactly. I feel like I'm meeting him in his energy, you know? That seemed a good idea. So, the historian rigged up a high tower in his backyard and took lessons in wireless telegraphy until he understood it, and then began to call Princess Dorothy of Oz by sending messages into the air. Now, it wasn't likely that Dorothy would be looking for wireless messages or would heed the call, but one thing the historian was sure of, and that was that the powerful sorceress, Glinda, would know what he was doing and that he desired to communicate with Dorothy. For Glinda has a big book in which is recorded every event that takes place anywhere in the world, just the moment it happens, and so, of course, the book would tell her about the wireless message. And that was the way Dorothy heard that the historian wanted to speak with her. And there was a Shaggy Man in the land of Oz who knew how to telegraph a wireless reply. Power Smoker, thank you for the sub. Oh my goodness, thank you for that T1 sub. You were Smokemaster J. Oh, okay, welcome back. Good to see you again. Thank you for that sub. The result was that the historian begged so hard to be told the latest news of Oz, so that he could write it down for the children to read, that Dorothy asked permission of Ozma, and Ozma graciously consented. That is why. Sorry, am I something? No, we're good. That is why, after 2 long years of waiting, another Oz story is now being presented to the children of America. And this would not have been possible had not some clever man invented the wireless, and an equally clever child suggested the idea of reaching the mysterious land of Oz by its means. Signed, L. Frank Baum. Oscott at Hollywood in California. I'm sorry, was that his location? Did he call his house Oscott? Did he live in Hollywood, and did he call his house Oscott? You know, like in old letters where you'd sign off your name and then like where you were writing from? He's done that. Huh. All right. Go through the table of contents. And I gotta show you this next picture of our Patchwork Girl, because it's, oh boy, like I don't know if we want to go straight to checking off what is it, incomprehensible terrors beyond horrors beyond comprehension, but this is our Patchwork Girl. Oh, this is her. I just, wowzers. That's the stuff of nightmare. Like, that is the stuff of, that is a horror. Do you think, are we checking off horrors beyond comprehension already? Yes? Okay. Alright. Holy moly. Thanks a lot, Baum. Okay, done. Hold on. There we go. Okay. I need to find a better system that is less fiddly than this. It works. It's just a bit fiddly. Okay. Classic bomber. Classic bomber. Okay. Excellent. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what he has in store for us. Hi, Silver. Good to see you. Also, Electric Bees. Hello, hello, hello. Why do you feel like these are posh British guys? No, I mean, the point, the reason why Baum originally wrote The Wizard of Oz is because he wanted an all-American fairy tale. He's like, man, all the fairy tales are all British or like European. He wanted like a Peter Pan for America kind of deal. So did you suggest that one, Chompy? Oh, it's so good. All right. Chapter 1, Ojo and Unk Nunky. Oh no, okay. Which voices are we going to give them? Also, there's a lot of pictures in this, okay? That's Ojo.
Where's the butter, Unk Nunky? Asked Ojo.
Unk looked out of the window. Sorry, just the fact that Unk has become, like, common parlance recently is making this funny. Unk looked out of the window and stroked his long beard. Then he turned to the Munchkin boy and shook his head.
"Oh, isn't," said he. "Isn't any butter? Well, that's too bad, Unk. Where's the jam, then?"
inquired Ojo, standing on a stool so he could look through all the shelves of the cupboard. But Unk Nunky shook his head again. "Gone," he said.
"No jam either? And no cake? No jelly? No apples? Nothing but bread?"
"All," said Unk, again stroking his beard as he gazed from the window. The little boy brought the stool and sat beside his uncle, munching the dry bread slowly and seeming in deep thought. I think Ojo turns his uncle into a statue, because he doesn't seem very useful as he is anyways.
"Nothing grows in our yard but the bread tree," he mused, "and there are only 2 more loaves on that tree. They're not ripe yet. Tell me, Unk, why are we so poor?"
The old Munchkin turned and looked at Ojo. He had kindly eyes, but he hadn't smiled or laughed in so long that the boy had forgotten that Unk Nunky could look any other way than solemn. And Unk never spoke any more words than he was obliged to, so his little nephew, who lived alone with him, had learned to understand a great deal from one word.
"Why are we so poor, Unk?"
repeated the boy. "Not," said the old Munchkin.
"Well, I think we are," declared Ojo. "What have we got?"
"House," said Unk Nunky.
"Well, I know, but everyone in the land of Oz has a place to live. What else, Unk?"
"Bread."
"Well, I'm eating the last loaf that's ripe. There, I've put aside your share, Unk. It's on the table, so you can eat it when you get hungry. But when that is gone, what shall we eat, Unk?"
The old man shifted in his chair, but merely shook his head.
"Well, of course,"
said Ojo, who was obliged to talk because his uncle would not. "No one starves in the land of Oz either. There's plenty for everyone, you know. Only, if it isn't just where you happen to be, you must go where it is." The aged Munchkin wriggled again and stared at his small nephew as if disturbed by his argument.
"By tomorrow morning," the boy went on, "we must go where there is something to eat. We shall grow very hungry and become very unhappy."
"Where?" asked Unk.
"Where shall we go? Well, I don't know, I'm sure," replied Ojo. "But you must know, Unk. You must have traveled in your time, because you're so old. Well, I don't remember it, because ever since I could remember anything, we've lived right here in this lonesome round house with a little garden back of it and the thick woods all around. Well, all I've ever seen of the great land of Oz, Unk dear, is the view of that mountain over at the south." where they say the hammerheads live. They won't let anyone go by them. And that mountain at the north, where they say nobody lives. One, declared Unc, correcting him. Oh yes, one family lives there, I've heard. That's the crooked magician, who's named Dr. Pipt, and his wife, Margalot. One year you told me about them. I think it took you a whole year, Unc, to say as much as I've just said about the crooked magician and his wife. They live high up on the mountains, and the good Munchkin country, where the fruits and flowers grow, is just the other side. It's funny you and I should live here all alone, in the middle of the forest, isn't it? Yes, said Unc. Well, then let's go away and visit the Munchkin country and its jolly, good-natured people. I'd love to get a sight of something besides woods, Unc Nunky. Too little, said Unc. Well, I'm not so little as I used to be, answered the boy earnestly. Well, I think I can walk as far and as fast through the woods as you can, Unc. And now that nothing grows in our backyard that's good to eat, we must go where there's food. Unc Nunky made no reply for a time. Then he shut down the window and turned his chair to face the room, for the sun was sinking behind the treetops, and it was growing cold. By and by, Ojo lighted the fire, and the logs blazed freely in the broad fireplace. The two sat in the firelight a long time, the old white-bearded Munchkin and the little boy. Both were thinking. When it grew quite dark outside, Ojo said, "Eat your bread, Unc, and then we'll go to bed." But Unc Nunky did not eat the bread. Neither did he go directly to bed. Long after his little nephew was sound asleep in the corner of the room, the old man sat by the fire, thinking. End of chapter. Everyone works and there's no money. Oh yeah. It's like Oz is basically like a socialist dream. Everyone works because they want to, but no one's overworked. Everyone has a place to live and food to eat, and yeah. Definitely a tone shift after Sheridan Le Fanu, right? Yeah. The word Unc is used to get under people's skin. You can be 3 years older than someone, they consider you Unc. Dude, people are getting called Unc at like the age of 25 now. Which, like, obviously you can be an uncle at that age. You can be an uncle as a child, but yeah. Doesn't mean to say old. Okay. The Crooked Magician. Just at dawn next morning, Unc Nunky laid his hand tenderly on Ojo's head and awakened him. You can be an uncle as a child? Yeah. If you have a sibling that's, like, decently older than you, and they have a kid? Yeah. Like, it is technically possible to have an aunt or uncle that is younger than you. Yeah. You became an uncle at 14? Right. You were also an uncle at 14? Mm-hmm. Can you be younger than your nephew? Yeah. Okay. Come, he said. Ojo dressed. He
He wore blue silk stockings, blue knee pants with gold buckles, a blue ruffled waist, and a jacket of bright blue, braided with gold. His shoes were of blue leather and turned up at the toes, which were pointed. He's blue, da-ba-dee-da-ba-da. His hat had a peaked crown and a flat brim, and around the brim was a row of tiny golden bells that tinkled when he moved. This was the native costume of those who inhabited the Munchkin country of the Land of Oz, so Unc Nunkie's dress was much like that of his nephew. Instead of shoes, the old man wore boots with turnover tops, and his blue coat had wide cuffs of gold braid. The boy noticed that his uncle had not eaten the bread, and supposed the old man had not been hungry. Ojo was hungry, though, so he divided the piece of bread upon the table and ate his half for breakfast, washing it down with fresh, cool water from the brook. Unc put the other piece of bread in his jacket pocket, after which he again said, as he walked out through the doorway, "Come." Ojo was well pleased. He was dreadfully tired of living all alone in the woods, and he wanted to travel and see people. For a long time he had wished to explore the beautiful Land of Oz in which they lived. When they were outside, Unc simply latched the door and started up the path. No one would disturb their little house, even if anyone came so far into the thick forest while they were gone. At the foot of the mountain that separated the country of the Munchkins from the country of the Gillikins, the path divided. One way led to the left and the other to the right, straight up the mountain. Unc Nunkie took this right-hand path, and Ojo followed, without asking why. He knew it would take them to the house of the crooked magician, whom he had never seen, but who was their nearest neighbor. All the morning they trudged up the mountain path, and at noon, Unc and Ojo sat on a fallen tree trunk and ate the last of the bread which the old Munchkin had placed in his pocket. Then they started on again, and 2 hours later came in sight of the house of Dr. Pipt. It was a big house, round, well, as were all the Munchkin houses, and painted blue, which is the distinctive color of the Munchkin country of Oz. There was a pretty garden around the house where blue trees and blue flowers grew in abundance, and in one place were beds of blue cabbages, blue carrots, and blue lettuce, all of which were delicious to eat. In Dr. Pipt's garden grew bun trees, cake trees, cream puff bushes, blue buttercups which yielded excellent blue butter, and a row of chocolate caramel plants. Paths of blue gravel divided the vegetable and flower beds, and a wider path led up to the front door. The place was in a clearing on the mountain, but a little way off was the grim forest, which completely surrounded it. Unc knocked at the door of the house, and a chubby, pleasant-faced woman, dressed all in blue, opened it and greeted the visitors with a smile.
"Ah," said Ojo, "you must be Dame Margalotte, the good wife of Dr. Pipt."
"I am, my dear, and all strangers are welcome to my home."
"May we see the famous magician, madam?"
"Oh, he's very busy just now," she said, shaking her head doubtfully. "But come in and let me give you something to eat, for you must have traveled far in order to get to our lonely place."
"We have," replied Ojo, as he and Unc entered the house. "We've come from a far lonelier place than this."
"A lonelier place? And in the Munchkin country?" she exclaimed. "Then it must be somewhere in the Blue Forest."
"It is, good Dame Margalotte."
"Dear me," she said, looking at the man. "You must be Unc Nunkie, known as the Silent One.
And she looked at the boy. And you must be Ojo the Unlucky, she added. What the fuck? Why has this poor kid gotten slapped with a name like that? Like, that's so rude that he's called this enough that, like, he has a reputation.
Yes, said Unc.
Oh, I never knew I was called the Unlucky, said Ojo soberly. But it is a really good name for me.
Well, remarked the woman as she bustled around the room and set the table and brought food from the cupboard, you were unlucky to live all alone in that dismal forest, which is much worse than the forest around here. But perhaps your luck will change now that you're away from it. If, during your travels, you can manage to lose that "un" at the beginning of your name, Unlucky, you will then become Ojo the Lucky, which will be a great improvement.
Well, how can I lose that "un", Dame Margalotte?
I do not know how, but you must keep the matter in mind, and perhaps the chance will come to you, she replied. Ojo had never eaten such a fine meal in all his life. There was a savory stew, smoking hot, a dish of blue peas, a bowl of sweet milk of a delicate blue tint, and a blue pudding with blue plums in it. When the visitors had eaten heartily of this fare, the woman said to them, "Do you wish to see Dr. Pipt on business or for pleasure?" Unc shook his head. "We are traveling," replied Ojo, "and we stopped at your house just to rest and refresh ourselves. I do not think Unc Nunky cares very much to see the famous crooked magician, but for my part I am curious to look at such a great man." "Why would you say that to his wife?" "Wait, I figured they meant that he was a criminal. Do they mean he's just disfigured? And they're giving him, like, okay." As a crooked lady, why didn't we put L. Frank Baum as fucking ableist in our bingo card? The woman seemed thoughtful. "I remember that Unc Nunky and my husband used to be friends many years ago," she said. "So perhaps they will be glad to meet again. The magician is very busy, as I said, but if you will promise not to disturb him, you may come into his workshop and watch him prepare a wonderful charm." "Oh, thank you," replied the boy, much pleased. "I would like to do that." She led the way to a great domed hall at the back of the house, which was the magician's workshop. There was a row of windows extending nearly around the sides of the circular room, which rendered the place very light. And there was a back door in addition to the one leading to the front part of the house. Before the row of windows, a broad seat was built, and there were some chairs and benches in the room besides. At one end stood a great fireplace, in which a blue log was blazing with a blue flame, and over the fire hung 4 kettles in a row, all bubbling and steaming at a great rate. The magician was stirring all 4 of these kettles at the same time, 2 with his hands and 2 with his feet. To the latter, wooden ladles being strapped. For this man was so very crooked that his legs were as handy as his arms. Unc Nunky came forward to greet his old friend, but not being able to shake either his hands or his feet, which were all occupied in stirring,
He patted the magician's bald head and asked, "What?" Are my legs handy? I mean, I do use my feet for things, you know, like sometimes like opening and closing doors or like turning on and off taps. Not always. Picking things off the floor. I don't know. But I'm not as crooked as this guy. Okay.
Ah, it's the silent one, remarked Dr. Pipt, without looking up. And he wants to know what I'm making. Well, when it is quite finished, this compound will be the wonderful powder of life. Oh, shit. Which no one knows how to make but myself. Oh, shit. This is the magician that Mombi got the powder from that brought Jack to life, and the sawhorse. Alright. Sorry, I've got a single piece of hair that is like sticking in my face. Yeah! And the gump, yeah! Okay. Whenever it is sprinkled on anything, that thing will at once come to life, no matter what it is. Oh, it takes me several years to make this magic powder, but at this moment I'm pleased to say it is nearly done. You see, I am making it for my good wife, Margalotte, who wants to use some of it for a purpose of her own. Sit down and make yourself comfortable, Unc Nunky, and after I've finished my task, I will talk to you. You must know. Well, that wasn't Margalotte. You must know, said Margalotte, when they were all seated together on the broad window seat, that my husband foolishly gave away all the powder of life he first made to old Mombi the witch, who used to live in the country of the Gillikins to the north of here. Mombi gave to Dr. Pipt a powder of perpetual youth in exchange for his powder of life. But she cheated him wickedly. The powder of youth was no good and could work no magic at all. Perhaps the powder of life couldn't either, said Ojo. Oh, yes, it is perfection, she declared. The first lot we tested on our glass cat, which not only began to live, but has lived ever since. She's somewhere around the house now. A glass cat? Exclaimed Ojo, astonished. Yes, she makes a very pleasant companion, but admires herself a little more than is considered modest, and she positively refuses to catch mice, explained Margalotte. My husband made the cat some pink brains, but they proved to be too high-bred and particular for a cat, so she thinks it is undignified in her to catch mice. Also, she has a pretty blood-red heart, but it is made of stone, a ruby, I think, and so is rather hard and unfeeling. I think the next glass cat the magician makes will have neither brains nor heart, for then it will not object to catching mice, and may prove of some use to us. He's just like giving her organs inside her glass body. I figured she just had an ornamental knick-knack that they tested it on, like of a cat. But no, he like made it in order to make it come to life. Okay. What did old Mombi the witch do with the powder of life your husband gave her? Asked the boy. Well, she brought Jack Pumpkinhead to life, for one thing, was the reply. I suppose you've heard of Jack Pumpkinhead. He's now living near the Emerald City, and is a great favorite with the Princess Ozma, who rules all the land of Oz. No, I've never heard of him, remarked Ojo. I'm afraid I don't know very much about the land of Oz.
You see, I've lived all my life with Unc Nunky, the silent one, and there was no one to tell me anything. That is one reason you are Ojo the Unlucky, said the woman in a sympathetic tone. The more one knows, the luckier he is, for knowledge is the greatest gift in life. That feels like surprisingly anti-Christian for L. Frank Baum, but okay. But tell me, please, what do you intend to do with this new lot of the Powder of Life, which Dr. Pipt is making? He said his wife wanted it for some special purpose. So I do, she answered. I want it to bring my Patchwork Girl to life. Oh, a Patchwork Girl. What is that? Ojo asked, for this seemed even more strange and unusual than a glass cat. Oh, I think I must show you my Patchwork Girl, said Margalotte, laughing at the boy's astonishment, for she is rather difficult to explain. But first, I will tell you that for many years I have longed for a servant. I thought she was going to say she wanted a daughter. No, she wants a servant. Okay, never mind. I have longed for a servant to help me with the housework and cook the meals and wash the dishes. Don't make a cloth girl wash dishes. Like, make her out of something else. Hi, Edgar. Hello. No servant will come here because the place is so lonely and out of the way. So my clever husband, the crooked magician, proposed that I make a girl out of some sort of material, and he would make her live by sprinkling over her the powder of life. It seemed an excellent suggestion, and at once Dr. Pipt set to work to make a new batch of his magic powder. Oh, he's been at it a long, long while, and so I have had plenty of time to make the girl. Yet that task was not so easy as you may suppose. At first I couldn't think what to make her of. But finally, in searching through a chest, I came across an old patchwork quilt, which my grandmother once made when she was young. What is a patchwork quilt? Asked Ojo. Well, a bed quilt, made of patches, of different kinds and colors of cloth, all neatly sewn together. The patches are of all shapes and sizes, so a patchwork quilt is a very pretty and gorgeous thing to look at. Sometimes it is called a crazy quilt because the patches and colors are so mixed up. We never have used my grandmother's many-colored patchwork quilt, handsome as it is, for we Munchkins do not care for any color other than blue, so it has been packed away in the chest for about 100 years. When I found it, I said to myself that it would do nicely for my servant girl, for when she was brought to life, she would not be proud nor haughty, as the glass cat is, for such a dreadful mixture of colors would discourage her from trying to be as dignified as the blue Munchkins are. Did Baum just basically say, I'm making her skin these colors so that she knows her place as a servant? That's that's so fucked. That's so fucked. Baum, what the fuck is wrong with you? Oh my god. Okay, does that go anywhere on our board? What the hell, Baum? Oh, Christ. No, we do have Baum being a misogynist. I'm not sure we have Baum being racist on here. Alright. Okay. Alright. Is blue the only respectable color, then? Inquired Ojo. Yes, for a munchkin. All our country is blue, you know. Oh, but in other parts of Oz, the people favor different colors. At the Emerald City, where our Princess Ozma lives, green is the popular color. But all munchkins prefer blue to anything else, and when my housework girl is brought to life, she will find herself to be of so many unpopular colors that she'll never dare be rebellious or imprudent, as servants are sometimes liable to be when they are made the same way their mistresses are. Unc Nunky nodded approval. Good idea, he said. And that was a long speech for Unc Nunky because it was 2 words. I'm not, like, overreacting to this, right? Like, he's... Like, you guys are reading it this way too, right? That's crazy. Oh my god. So I cut up the quilt, continued Margalot, and made from it a very well-shaped girl, which I stuffed with cotton wadding. I'll show you what a good job I did. And she went to a tall cupboard and threw open the doors. Then back she came, lugging in her arms the Patchwork Girl, which she set upon the bench and propped up so the figure would not tumble over. Look at her face. Look at the Patchwork Girl's face. Hold on. Oh no. Oh no. This is terrible. Oh wow. Oh, and we have a little picture of Ojo. Just a little picture of Ojo looking like a circus worker. All right, next chapter, the Patchwork Girl. Oh my god, I'm sorry. I need to be better at, like, seeing ahead of time if there are... Look at this. Look at her. Look at her. That's a fucking monster in the corner of your room. Look at her. She's going to eat your toes at night. Like... That is... I want to uncheck Horrors Beyond Comprehension just so that we can check it off again. This man was disturbed. We got color pages, but at what cost? Oh, yeah. Okay. Ojo examined this curious contrivance with wonder. The Patchwork Girl was taller than he when she stood upright, and her body was plump and rounded because it had been so neatly stuffed with cotton. Margalot had first made the girl's form from the patchwork quilt, and then she had dressed it with a patchwork skirt and an apron with pockets in it, using the same gay material throughout. Upon the feet, she had sewn a pair of red leather shoes with pointed toes. All the fingers and thumbs of the girl's hands had been carefully formed and stuffed and stitched at the edges, with gold plates at the ends to serve as fingernails. She will have to work when she comes to life, said Margalotte. The head of the Patchwork Girl was the most curious part of her. While she waited for her husband to finish making his powder of life, the woman had found ample time to complete the head as her fancy dictated. She realized that a good servant's head must be properly constructed. The hair was of brown yarn and hung down on her neck in several neat braids. Her eyes were 2 silver suspender buttons cut from a pair of the magician's old trousers, and they were sewed on with black threads, which formed the pupils of the eyes. Margalotte had puzzled over the ears for some time, for these were important if the servant was to hear distinctly. But finally she had made them out of thin plates of gold and attached them in place by means of stitches through tiny holes bored in the metal. Gold is the most common metal in the land of Oz and is used for many purposes because it is soft and pliable. The woman had cut a slit for the Patchwork Girl's mouth and sewn 2 rows of white pearls in it for teeth. Holy hell! This is monstrous. Okay. And so we should have read this in October. It's a goddamn horror story. And sewn 2 rows of white pearls in it for teeth, using a strip of scarlet plush for a tongue. This mouth Ojo considered very artistic and lifelike, and Margalotte was pleased when the boy praised it. There were almost too many patches on the face of the girl for her to be considered strictly beautiful, for one cheek was yellow and the other red, her chin blue, her forehead purple, and the center, where her nose had been formed and padded, a bright yellow. You ought to have had her face all pink, suggested the boy. I suppose so, but I had no pink cloth, replied the woman. Still, I cannot see as it matters much, for I wish my Patchwork Girl to be useful rather than ornamental. If I get tired looking at her patched face, I can whitewash it. Has she any brains? Asked Ojo. No. I forgot all about the brains, exclaimed the woman. I'm glad you reminded me of them, for it is not too late to supply them by any means. Well, until she is brought to life, I can do anything I please with this girl. But I must be careful not to give her too much brains, and those she has must be such as are fitted to the station she is to occupy in life. In other words, her brains mustn't be very good. This is one of... Okay, I know the bar is low for L. Frank Baum. This is fucked even by his standards, right? Like, or has it just been a while since we've read, like... No, this is extra fucked, right? I don't know. Like something, like Baum has gone downhill in the past couple years. Plus we know from the previous Oz books that like he seems to kind of like hate women. He's kind of a misogynist. It's just, let's go for a bit. Let's see how it is. Okay. In other words, her brains mustn't be very good. Wrong, said Unc Nunky. No, I'm sure I'm right about that. returned the woman. He means, explained Ojo, that unless your servant has good brains, she won't know how to obey you properly, nor do the things you ask her to. Do. Well, that may be true, agreed Margolot. But on the contrary, a servant with too much brains is sure to become independent and high and mighty and feel above her work. This is a very delicate task, as I said, and I must take care to give the girl just the right quantity of the right sort of brains. I want her to know just enough, but not too much. With this, she went to another cupboard, which was filled with shelves. All the shelves were lined with blue glass bottles, neatly labeled by the magician to show what they contained. One whole shelf was marked brain furniture, and the bottles on this shelf were labeled as follows: obedience, cleverness, judgment, courage, ingenuity, amiability, learning, truth, poesy, and self-reliance. Let me see, said Margolot. Of those qualities, she must have obedience, first of all, and she took down the bottle bearing that label and poured from it upon a dish several grains of the contents. Amiability is also good, and truth. She poured into the dish a quantity from each of these bottles. I think that will do, she continued, for the other qualities are not needed in a servant. Unk Nunkie, who with Ojo stood beside her, touched the bottle marked cleverness. Little, said he. A little cleverness? Well, perhaps you are right, sir, said she, and was about to take down the bottle when the crooked magician suddenly called to her excitedly from the fireplace. Quick, Margolot, come and help me. She ran to her husband's side at once and helped him lift the 4 kettles from the fire. Their contents had all boiled away, leaving in the bottom of each kettle a few grains of very fine white powder. Very carefully, the magician removed this powder, placing it all together in a golden dish, where he mixed it with a golden spoon. When the mixture was complete, there was scarcely a handful, all told. That, said Dr. Pipt in a pleased and triumphant tone, is the wonderful powder of life, which I alone in the world know how to make. It has taken me nearly 6 years to prepare these precious grains of dust, but the little heap on that dish is worth the price of a kingdom. Many a king would give all he has to possess it. When it has become cooled, I'll place it in a small bottle, but meantime, I must watch it carefully, lest a gust of wind blow it away or scatter it. Unk Nunkie, Margolot, and the magician all stood looking at the marvelous powder. But Ojo was more interested just then in the Patchwork Girl's brains, thinking it both unfair and unkind to deprive her of any good qualities that were handy. The boy took down every bottle on the shelf and poured some of the contents in Margolot's dish. No one saw him do this, for all were looking at the powder of life. But soon the woman remembered what she had been doing and came back to the cupboard. Let's see, she remarked. I was about to give my girl a little cleverness, which is the doctor's substitute for intelligence, a quality he has not yet learned how to manufacture. Taking down the bottle of cleverness, she added some of the powder to the heap on the dish. Ojo became a bit uneasy at this, for he had already put quite a lot of the cleverness powder in the dish, but he dared not interfere, and so he comforted himself with the thought that one cannot have too much cleverness. Margolot now carried the dish of brains to the bench, ripping the seam of the patch on the girl's forehead. She placed the powder within the head, and then sewed up the seam as neatly and securely as before. My girl is all ready for your powder of life, my dear, she said to her husband. But the magician replied, Well, this powder must not be used before tomorrow morning. I think it's now cool enough to be bottled. He selected a small gold bottle with a pepper box top, so that the powder might be sprinkled on any object through the small holes. Very carefully he placed the powder of life in the gold bottle, and then locked it up in a drawer of his cabinet. At last, said he, rubbing his hands together gleefully, I have ample leisure for a good talk with my old friend, Unc Nunky. So let us sit down cozily and enjoy ourselves. After stirring those 4 kettles for 6 years, I'm glad to have a little rest. You will have to do most of the talking, said Ojo, for Unc is called the Silent One and uses few words. I know, but that renders your uncle a most agreeable companion and gossip, declared Dr. Pipt. Most people talk too much, so it's a relief to find one who talks too little. Ojo looked at the magician with much awe and curiosity. Don't you find it very annoying to be so crooked? He asked. No, I'm quite proud of my person, was the reply. I suppose I'm the only crooked magician in all the world. Well, some others are accused of being crooked, but I am the only genuine. He was really very crooked, and Ojo wondered how he managed to do so many things with such a twisted body. When he sat down upon a crooked chair that had been made to fit him, one knee was under his chin, and the other near the small of his back. But he was a cheerful man, and his face bore a pleasant and agreeable expression. Well, I'm not allowed to perform magic except for my own amusement, he told his visitors, as he lighted a pipe with a crooked stem and began to smoke. Too many people were working magic in the land of Oz, and so our lovely Princess Ozma put a stop to it. I think she was quite right. There were several wicked witches who caused a lot of trouble, but now they're all out of business, and only the great sorceress, Glinda the Good, is permitted to practice her arts, which never harm anybody. Whoa, 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 wait. Because it used to be that each of the kingdoms was ruled by a different sorceress or witch, and they were all allowed to do magic. Now Glinda's the only one. Wait, is this enough to check off Glinda doesn't seem very good? I don't know if it's a retcon or if Glinda has just made these changes happen, you know, over time. Glinda's definitely, like, the villain, though. What about the rabbits? Oh, yeah, no. She's fucked up. She's the power behind each and every throne, yeah. Or did Baum just leave out part of the history? It's hard to tell. I mean, he does say there were several witches who were causing a lot of trouble, but they weren't all wicked witches, right? There was another good witch as well. And she's just, like, not mentioned anymore. I remember, do you remember in book number 2, Mombi is upset she's not allowed to call herself a witch. Because Glinda even at that time was like, there's only allowed to be like one witch per quadrant. So Mombi wasn't allowed to call herself a witch. Even Ozma can't use the belt on her? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm sure, like, Ozma is allowed to use her magic objects, like her mirror that she can perv on anybody, and her belt. But yeah. Okay. The Wizard of Oz, who used to be a humbug and knew no magic at all, has been taking lessons of Glinda. I'm told he's getting to be a pretty good wizard. But he's merely the assistant of the great sorceress. Well, I've the right to make a servant girl for my wife, you know, or a glass cat to catch our mice, which she refuses to do. but I'm forbidden to work magic for others or to use it as a profession. Magic must be a very interesting study, said Ojo. Oh, it truly is, asserted the magician. In my time, I've performed some magical feats that were worthy the skill of Glinda the Good. Well, for instance, there's the powder of life, and my liquid of petrification, of petrifaction, which is contained in that bottle on the shelf yonder, over the window. What does the liquid of petrifaction do? Inquired the boy. Turns everything it touches to solid marble. What's an invention of my own? I find it very useful. Once 2 of those dreadful Kalidas, with bodies like bears and heads like tigers, came here from the forest to attack us. But I sprinkled some of that liquid on them, and instantly they turned to marble. I use them now as ornamental statuary in my garden. This table looks to you like wood, and once it really was wood, but I sprinkled a few drops of the liquid of petrifaction on it, and now it is marble. It will never break nor wear out. Okay, that's pretty awesome, actually. Like, not so much using it on living people, but to have like a wooden table and just turn it into solid marble. That's kind of rad. Fine, said Unk Nunky, wagging his head and stroking his long gray beard. Dear me, what a chatterbox you're getting to be, Unk, remarked the magician, who was pleased with the compliment. But just then there came a scratching at the back door, and a shrill voice cried, "Let me in! Hurry up, can't you? Let me in!" Margalotte got up and went to the door. "Ask like a good cat, then," she said. Meow! There, does that suit your royal highness? Asked the voice in scornful accents. Yes, that's proper cat talk, declared the woman, and opened the door. No, this is not another uwu cat. Here's the glass cat. It's not Dorothy, no. At once, a cat entered, came to the center of the room, and stopped short at the sight of the strangers. Ojo and Unk Nunky both stared at it with wide open eyes, for surely no such curious creature had ever existed before, even in the land of Oz. Okay, we've got a couple more pictures. I think this one might be the magician. He's a stunner. And here's another picture of the Patchwork Girl. Ah! Mm-hmm. Oh, and here's another picture of the glass cat. How are we feeling? We've read 3 chapters so far. It's been a lot already. This has been an emotional trial already. Do we want to read another chapter? You're feeling? I'm also feeling. I'm having feelings. Onwards to 4 chapters. They are pretty short. So, let's try to get another chapter. Oh my god, though. Okay. Chapter 4. The Glass Cat. The cat was made of glass. So clear and transparent that you could see through it, as easily as through a window. In the top of its head, however, was a mass of delicate pink balls, which looked like jewels, and it had a heart made of a blood-red ruby. The eyes were two large emeralds, but aside from these colors, all the rest of the animal was clear glass, and it had a spun glass tail that was really beautiful.
Well, Doc Pipt, do you mean to introduce us or not? Demanded the cat in a tone of annoyance. Seems to me you're forgetting your manners.
Oh, excuse me, returned the magician. Well, this is Unc Nunky, the descendant of the former kings of the Munchkins, before this country became a part of the land of Oz. What? Huh? Oh. Munchkin Land wasn't always part of Oz. It had its own kings, and did Ozma's family line, like, overthrow them? And that's why he's been living in a fucking forest all alone? Oh. Okay. Oh, shit. Hi, bro. Yeah, this is... okay.
Well, he needs a haircut,
observed the cat, washing its face. True, replied Unc, with a low chuckle of amusement. Oh, but he's lived alone in the heart of the forest for many years, the magician explained. And although that is a barbarous country, there are no barbers there.
Who is the dwarf?
Asked the cat. Well, it's not a dwarf, but a boy, answered the magician. You've never seen a boy before. He's now small because he is young. With more years, he will grow big and become as tall as Unc Nunky. I like that this implies that she has seen a dwarf, though.
Oh, is that magic?
The glass animal inquired. Yes, but it is nature's magic, which is more wonderful than any art known to man. For instance, my magic made you, and made you live. And it was a poor job, because you are useless and a bother to me. But I can't make you grow. You will always be the same size, and the same saucy, inconsiderate glass cat with pink brains and a hard ruby heart.
No one can regret more than I the fact that you made me,
asserted the cat, crouching upon the floor and slowly swaying its spun glass tail from side to side.
Your world is a very uninteresting place. I've wandered through your gardens and in the forest until I'm tired of it all. And when I come into the house, the conversation of your fat wife and of yourself bores me dreadfully.
Well, that is because I gave you different brains than those we ourselves possess, and much too good for a cat, returned Dr. Pipt.
Can't you take him out then, and replace him with pebbles, so that I won't feel above my station in life?
Oh, wait. I thought she was going to be sassy here. No, wait. Asked the cat pleadingly. Okay.
Well, can't you take him out then, and replace him with pebbles, so that I won't feel above my station in life?
Asked the cat pleadingly.
Get out of here, cat. Go live a better life.
You can do better than this. Well, perhaps so. I'll try it after I've brought the Patchwork Girl to life, he said. The cat walked up to the bench on which the Patchwork Girl reclined and looked at her attentively.
Are you going to make that dreadful thing live?
The magician nodded. Oh, it is intended to be my wife's servant maid, he said. When she's alive, she will do all our work and mind the house. But you are not to order her around, Bungle, as you do us. You must treat the Patchwork Girl respectfully.
I won't. I couldn't respect such a bundle of scraps under any circumstances.
Well, if you don't, there will be more scraps than you will like. Oh, no, wait, sorry, that's Margalot. If you don't, there will be more scraps than you will like, cried Margalot angrily.
Why didn't you make her pretty to look at? asked the cat. You made me pretty, very pretty indeed, and I love to watch my pink brains roll around when they're working, and to see my precious red heart beat.
She went to a long mirror as she said this, and stood before it, looking at herself with an air of much pride.
But that poor Patch thing will hate herself when she's once alive, continued the cat. If I were you, I'd use her for a mop and make another servant that is prettier.
You have a perverted taste, snapped Margolot, much annoyed at this frank criticism.
I think the Patchwork Girl is beautiful, considering what she's made of. Even the rainbow hasn't as many colors, and you must admit that the rainbow is a pretty thing.
Margolot has just finished talking about how she's intentionally made her kind of ugly so that she doesn't feel too proud. Like, the glass cat yawned and stretched herself upon the floor.
Have your own way, she said. I'm sorry for the Patchwork Girl, that's all.
Ojo and Unk Nunky slept that night in the magician's house. The boy was glad to stay because he was anxious to see the Patchwork Girl brought to life. The glass cat was also a wonderful creature to little Ojo, who had never seen or known anything of magic before, although they had lived in the fairyland of Oz ever since he was born. Back there in the woods, nothing unusual ever happened. Unk Nunky, who might have been king of the Munchkins had not his people united with all the other countries of Oz in acknowledging Ozma as their sole ruler, had retired into this forgotten forest nook with his baby nephew, and they had lived all alone there. Hold up, retcon. Book number 1, Ozma has disappeared. No one knows where she is, right? She got smuggled out as a baby, turned into a boy, is growing up not knowing who she is as Tip the boy. Jour Pleur, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Hi CS. But all the countries of Oz were united under the wizard, weren't they? And previously to the wizard, weren't they united under Ozma's father? Am I wrong? This feels like retconning, right? I feel like this is retconning. Because they, like, book number 1, like, the Munchkin Land is part of Oz, right? Or does it mean that previously they all still had their own royalty? And then they had to all, when Ozma came to the throne, they all gave up their own royalty? Hi, Red Sea. Honestly, the way it was originally laid out sounds a lot like Ireland. 4 kingdoms, each with a king or ruler, and then a central city with like a high king or like ultimate ruler. You're already here, but at this point shouting your name is my trademark. I know, it would be very weird if you didn't shout my name. It's good to see you, Red Sea. Does the glass cat count for the new talking animal? Yes. Yes, I think it does. I think it should. I think it should. Mm-hmm. Okay. New talking animal introduced. There we go. We'll wait. I'm holding off on the retcon because it could be that we just hadn't heard about how the whole system was set up. I'm not sure. Okay.
and they'd lived there all alone. Only that the neglected garden had failed to grow food for them, they would always have lived in the solitary blue forest. But now they had started out to mingle with other people, and the first place they came to proved so interesting that Ojo could scarcely sleep a wink all night. Margalotte was an excellent cook and gave them a fine breakfast. While they were all engaged in eating, the good woman said, "This is the last meal I shall have to cook for some time, for right after breakfast Dr. Pipt has promised to bring my new servant to life. I shall let her wash the breakfast dishes and sweep and dust the house. What a relief it will be." "It will indeed relieve you of much drudgery," said the magician. "By the way, Margalotte, I thought I saw you getting some brains from my cupboard while I was busy with my kettles. What qualities have you given your new servant?" "Only those that an humble servant requires," she answered. "I do not wish her to feel above her station, as the glass cat does. Well, that would make her discontented and unhappy, for of course she must always be a servant." Ojo was somewhat disturbed as he listened to this, and the boy began to fear he had done wrong in adding all of those different qualities of brains to the lot Margalotte had prepared for the servant. But it was too late now for regret, since all the brains were securely sewn up inside the Patchwork Girl's head. He might have confessed what he had done, and thus allowed Margalotte and her husband to change the brains, but he was afraid of incurring their anger. He believed that Unc had seen him add to the brains, and Unc had not said a word against it. But then, Unc never did say anything, unless it was absolutely necessary. As soon as breakfast was over, they all went into the magician's big workshop, where the glass cat was lying before the mirror, and the Patchwork Girl lay limp and lifeless upon the bench. "Now then," said Dr. Pipt in a brisk tone, "we shall perform one of the greatest feats of magic possible to man, even in this marvelous land of Oz. In no other country could it be done at all. I think we ought to have a little music while the Patchwork Girl comes to life. It is pleasant to reflect that the first sounds her golden ears will hear will be delicious music." "Hi, unshapen being. Welcome in. Hello, hello." Okay. As he spoke, he went to a phonograph, which was screwed fast to a small table, and wound up the spring of the instrument and adjusted the big gold horn. "The music my servant will usually hear," remarked Margalotte, "will be my orders to do her work. But I see no harm in allowing her to listen to this unseen band while she wakens to her first realization of life. My orders will beat the band afterward." The phonograph was now playing a stirring march tune, and the magician unlocked his cabinet and took out the gold bottle containing the powder of life. They all bent over the bench on which the Patchwork Girl reclined. Unc Nunkie and Margalotte stood behind, near the windows, Ojo at one side and the magician in front, where he would have freedom to sprinkle the powder. The glass cat came near too, curious to watch the important scene. "This lady is terrible." "Yeah." "All ready?" asked Dr. Pipt. "All is ready," answered his wife. So the magician leaned over and shook from the bottle some grains of the wonderful powder, and they fell directly on the Patchwork Girl's head and arms. Oh boy. Oh boy. Look at this picture. Oh, horrible, horrible. And
honestly, the cat is pretty based because this is the cat's reaction, and I agree. I agree, cat. Also, that cat does not look glass at all. That just looks like a normal cat. This is so fucking cursed. Oh no. Okay, we gotta read one more chapter, right? Like, to see what happens. Chapter 5. A terrible accident. Oh, Christ. Okay. This is just... I always brace for something weird and horrible with L. Frank Baum. He still manages to surprise me with how weird and horrible he goes. So, you gotta give him that. I'm an abomination. Oh yeah, what voice should I give her? A terrible accident. Well, it will take a few minutes for this powder to do its work, remarked the magician, sprinkling the body up and down with much care. But suddenly, the Patchwork Girl threw up one arm, which knocked the bottle of powder from the crooked man's hand and sent it flying across the room. Unc Nunky and Margalotte were so startled that they both leapt backwards and bumped together, and Unc's head joggled the shelf above them and upset the bottle containing the liquid of petrifaction. The magician uttered such a wild cry that Ojo jumped away, and the Patchwork Girl sprang after him and clasped her stuffed arms around him in terror. The glass cat snarled and hid under the table, and so it was that when the powerful liquid of petrifaction was spilled, it fell only upon the wife of the magician and the uncle of Ojo. With these two, the charm worked promptly. They stood motionless and stiff as marble statues, in exactly the positions they were in when the liquid struck them. Ojo pushed the Patchwork Girl away and ran to Unc Nunky, filled with a terrible fear for the only friend and protector he had ever known. When he grasped Unc's hand, it was cold and hard. Even the long gray beard was solid marble. The crooked magician was dancing around the room in a frenzy of despair, calling upon his wife to forgive him, to speak to him, to come to life again. The Patchwork Girl, quickly recovering from her fright, now came nearer and looked from one to another of the people with deep interest. Then she looked at herself and laughed. Noticing the mirror, she stood before it and examined her extraordinary features with amazement. Her button eyes, pearl bead teeth, and puffy nose. Then, addressing her reflection in the glass, she exclaimed,
"Whee, but there's a gaudy dame, makes the paint box blush with shame. Razzle dazzle, fizzle fazzle, howdy do, miss, what's your name?"
She bowed, and the reflection bowed. Then she laughed again long and merrily, and the glass cat crept out from under the table and said,
"I don't blame you for laughing at yourself. Aren't you horrid?"
Okay, is this the right voice for her? Like...
"Horrid," she replied. "Why, I'm thoroughly delightful. I'm an original, if you please, and therefore incomparable. Of all the comic, absurd, rare, amusing creatures the world contains, I must be the supreme freak. Who but poor Margalot could have managed to invent such an unreasonable being as I? But I'm awfully glad, that I'm just what I am, and nothing else.
Oh, she's a lot. Okay, she's a lot. Oh, man.
Be quiet, will you?
Cried the frantic magician.
Be quiet and let me think. If I don't think, I shall go mad. Think ahead, said the Patchwork Girl, seating herself in a chair. Think all you want to. I don't mind.
Gee, but I'm tired of playing that tune,
called the phonograph, speaking through its horn in a brazen, scratchy voice.
If you don't mind, Pip, doll boy, I'll cut it out and take a rest.
The magician looked gloomily at the music machine.
What dreadful luck, he wailed despondently.
Well, the powder of life must have fallen on the phonograph.
He went up to it and found that the gold bottle that contained the precious powder had dropped upon the stand and scattered its life-giving grains over the machine. The phonograph was very much alive and began dancing a jig with the legs of the table to which it was attached, and this dance so annoyed Dr. Pipt that he kicked the thing into a corner and pushed a bench against it to hold it quiet.
Well, you were bad enough before, said the magician resentfully, but a live phonograph is enough to drive every sane person in the land of Oz stark crazy. No insults, please, answered the phonograph in a surly tone. You did it, my boy. Don't blame me.
You've bungled everything, Dr. Pipt,
added the glass cat contemptuously.
Except me, said the Patchwork Girl, jumping up to whirl merrily around the room.
I think, said Ojo, almost ready to cry through grief over Unc Nunkie's sad fate, it must all be my fault in some way. Well, I'm called Ojo the Unlucky, you know.
Well, that's nonsense, Kitty,
retorted the Patchwork Girl cheerfully.
No one can be unlucky who has the intelligence to direct his own actions. The unlucky ones are those who beg for a chance to think, like poor Dr. Pipt here. What's the row about anyway, Mr. Magic Maker?
Well, the liquid of petrifaction has accidentally fallen upon my dear wife and Unc Nunkie and turned them into marble, he sadly replied.
Well, why don't you sprinkle some of that powder on them and bring them to life again?
Asked the Patchwork Girl. The magician gave a jump.
Why hadn't I thought of that?
He joyfully cried and grabbed up the golden bottle, with which he ran to Margalot. Said the Patchwork Girl,
Higgledy-piggledy-dee, what fools magicians be! His head's so thick he can't think quick, so he takes advice from me.
Standing upon the bench, for he was so crooked he could not reach the top of his wife's head in any other way, Dr. Pipt began shaking the bottle. But not a grain of powder came out. He pulled off the cover, glanced within, and then threw the bottle from him with a wail of despair.
Gone, every bit gone, he cried. Wasted on that miserable phonograph, when it might have saved my dear wife.
Then the magician bowed his head upon his crooked arms and began to cry. Ojo was sorry for him. He went up to the sorrowful man and said softly, "You can make more powder of life, Dr. Pipt."
Yes, but it will take me 6 years, 6 long, weary years of stirring 4 kettles with both feet and both hands, was the agonized reply. 6 years? Well, poor Margalot stands watching me as a marble image.
Can't anything else be done? Asked the Patchwork Girl.
Johnny Ford, thanks for the sub over on YouTube. Hello. The magician shook his head. Then he seemed to remember something and looked up.
There is one other compound that would destroy the magic spell of the liquid of petrifaction and restore my wife and Unc Nunky to life, said he. Well, it may be hard to find the things I need to make this magic compound, but if they were found, I could do it in an instant. What will otherwise take 6 long, weary years of stirring kettles with both hands and both feet. All right, let's find the things then, suggested the Patchwork Girl. That seems a lot more sensible than those stirring times with the kettles. That's the idea, Scraps, said the Glass Cat approvingly. I'm glad to find you have decent brains. Mine are exceptionally good. You can see 'em work. They're pink. Scraps? Repeated the girl. Did you call me Scraps? Is that my name? Well, I believe my poor wife had intended to name you Angeline, said the magician. Oh, but I like Scraps best, she replied with a laugh. Well, it fits me better, for my patchwork is all scraps and nothing else. Thank you for naming me Miss Cat. Have you any name of your own? I have a foolish name that Margalot once gave me, but which is quite undignified for one of my importance, answered the cat. She called me Bungle. Yes, sighed the magician, you were a sad bungle, taken all in all. I was wrong to make you as I did, for a more useless, conceited, and brittle thing never before existed. I'm not so brittle as you think, retorted the cat. I've been alive a good many years, for Dr. Pip experimented on me with the first magic powder of life he ever made, and so far I've never broken or cracked or chipped any part of me. You seem to have a chip on your shoulder, laughed the Patchwork Girl, and the cat went to the mirror to see. Tell me, pleaded Ojo, speaking to the crooked magician. What must we find to make the compound that will save Unc Nunky? Well, first, was the reply, I must have a 6-leaved clover. Well, that can only be found in the green country around the Emerald City, and 6-leaved clovers are very scarce, even there. I'll find it for you, promised Ojo. Well, the next thing, continued the magician, is the left wing of a yellow butterfly. Well, that color can only be found in the yellow country of the Winkies, west of the Emerald City. I'll find it, declared Ojo. Is that all? Oh, no. Oh, I'll get my book of recipes and see what comes next. Saying this, the magician unlocked a drawer of his cabinet and drew out a small book covered with blue leather. Looking through the pages, he found the recipe he wanted and said, well, I must have a gill of water from a dark well. What kind of a well is that, sir? Asked the boy. One where the light of day never penetrates. The water must be put in a gold bottle and brought to me without any light ever reaching it. I'll get the water from the dark well, said Ojo. Then I must have 3 hairs from the tip of a woozy's tail, and a drop of oil from a live man's body. Flood Angel, thank you for the follow. Ojo looked grave at this. What is a woozy, please? He inquired. Some sort of an animal. I've never seen one, so I can't describe it, replied the magician. Well, if I can find a woozy, I'll get the hairs from its tail, said Ojo. But is there ever any oil in a man's body? The magician looked in the book again to make sure. Well, that's what the recipe calls for, he replied,
Of course, we must get everything that is called for, or the charm won't work. And the book doesn't say blood, it says oil. There must be oil somewhere in a live man's body, or the book wouldn't ask for it. Would Nick Chopper still count as a live man? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. But I don't know why they're acting like people don't get greasy. People absolutely get greasy, so. But anyway, yeah, I'm thinking it's gonna be Nick Chopper, who coincidentally rules over the land of the Winkies, so they can just go get 2 birds stoned over there. All right, returned Ojo, trying not to feel discouraged. I'll try to find it. The magician looked at the little munchkin boy in a doubtful way and said, all this will mean a long journey for you. Perhaps several long journeys. For you must search through several of the different countries of Oz in order to get the things I need. I know it, sir. But I must do my best to save Unc Nunky. And also my poor wife Margalot. Well, if you save one, you will save the other. For both stand there together in the same compound will restore both of them to life. Do the best you can, Ojo, and while you're gone, I shall begin the 6 years' job of making a new batch of the Powder of Life. Then, if you should unluckily fail to secure any one of the things needed, I will have lost no time. But if you succeed, you must return here as quickly as you can, and that will save me much tiresome stirring of 4 kettles with both feet and both hands.
I'll start on my journey at once, sir, said the boy. And I will go with you, declared the Patchwork Girl.
No, no, exclaimed the magician. You have no right to leave this house. You are only a servant and have not been discharged. Scraps, who had been dancing up and down the room, stopped and looked at him.
What is a servant?
She asked. One who serves. A sort of slave, he explained.
Very well, said the Patchwork Girl. I'm going to serve you and your wife by helping Ojo find the things you need. You need a lot, you know, such as are not easily found.
You guys, what the fuck? Well, it is true, sighed Dr. Pipt. I am well aware that Ojo has undertaken a serious task. Scraps laughed, and resuming her dance, she said,
Here's a job for a boy of brains, a drop of oil from a live man's veins, a 6-leaf clover, 3 nice hairs from a woozy's tail, the book declares, all needed for the magic spell, and water from a pitch-dark well. The yellow wing of a butterfly to find must Ojo also try, and if he gets them without harm, Doc Pipt will make the magic charm. But if he doesn't get him, Unc will always stand a marble chunk.
The magician looked at her thoughtfully. Poor Margalot must have given you some of the quality of poesy by mistake, he said. If that's true, I didn't make a very good article when I prepared it, or else you got an overdose or an underdose. However, I believe I shall let you go with Ojo, for my poor wife will not need your services until she is restored to life. Also, I think you may be able to help the boy, for your head seems to contain some thoughts I did not expect to find in it. But be very careful of yourself, for you're a souvenir of my dear Margalot. Try not to get ripped, or your stuffing may fall out. One of your eyes seems loose, and you may have to sew it on tighter. If you talk too much, you'll wear out your scarlet plush tongue, which ought to have been hemmed on the edges. And remember, you belong to me, and must return here as soon as your mission is accomplished.
I'm going with Scraps and Ojo,
announced the glass cat. Well, you can't, said the magician.
Why not?
You'd get broken in no time. You couldn't be a bit of use to the boy and the Patchwork Girl.
I beg to differ with you, returned the cat in a haughty tone. 3 heads are better than 2, and my pink brains are beautiful. You can see 'em work.
Well, go along, said the magician irritably. You're only an annoyance anyhow, and well, I'm glad to get rid of you.
Thank you for nothing, then,
answered the cat stiffly. Dr. Pipt took a small basket from a cupboard and packed several things in it. Then he handed it to Ojo. Well, here's some food and a bundle of charms, he said. That's all I can give you, but I am sure you will find friends on your journey who will assist you in your search. Take care of the Patchwork Girl and bring her safely back, for she ought to prove useful to my wife. As for the glass cat, properly named Bungle, if she bothers you, I now give you my permission to break her in 2, for she is not respectful and does not obey me. I made a mistake in giving her the pink brains, you see. This man is horrible. Horrible. He and his wife, both of them. Then Ojo went to Unk Nunkie and kissed the old man's marble face very tenderly.
I'm going to try to save you, Unk,
he said, just as if the marble image could hear him. And then he shook the crooked hand of the crooked magician, who was already busy hanging the 4 kettles in the fireplace, and picking up his basket, left the house. The Patchwork Girl followed him, and after them came the glass cat. End of chapter, and I think a great place to end reading for the night. I'm so glad that cat is getting out of there. The cat is gonna fucking live it up in the Emerald City. I'm predicting that. That cat is gonna have the best fucking life in the Emerald City. The Patchwork Girl, I kind of hate her, but like, she's really annoying. But I also hope she doesn't go back to the magician and his wife, because they're horrible and she deserves better than that. Are all his books like this? Kind of, yeah, varying degrees of awful, yet still managing to always shock us. You think the cat's gonna die? I don't think so. I think the cat's gonna end up living, like, being like a throne room cat. That was truly something, you guys. Alright. At the very least, I can say Ojo seems like a good kid. You know? He's not another, Bumble Bright, as we called him. He's not a Dorothy. Because Dorothy's awful. He actually just seems like a good kid. And I like the cat, who I hope they rename. I hope renames herself. The Patchwork Girl, I don't like her rhymes. But she's not like a horrible person, but she's a lot. She's just a lot. You know, like, she's not bad. She's just a lot. But she might turn out to be alright. Hey, Fatalisk. But okay, what a way to, like, jolt us out of the serious stories of spooky season. Wow. And we got a couple of things marked off on our bingo card. We got a new talking animal introduced. Heck yeah. We got horrors beyond comprehension. Cut her poem some slack, she's just been created. True.
Maybe she'll improve. I feel like we're on the fence with a few of them, possibly retconning. Possibly not dead naming or misgender, but like they are trying to name these creatures against their will. Anyway, Glinda is already sussy and she's not even in the story yet. Just talking about her, she just seems like a bit of a tyrant. Honestly, nonchalance at taking away bodily autonomy, a little bit. The Wiz does shit magic. Now, we were talking about a different wizard, but here was another wizard. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't that his magic was shit, it was just that it got bumped. So, anyone being mean for no reason? I mean, wait, we could take that off. Although, is that for no reason? Or is that her just being an awful person? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's more like indicative of her being an awful person. So it's not for no reason, it's just for bad reasons. Whereas this is more like, you know, when like Dorothy's like, you know, walking along with her friends and she's like, wow, you look really ugly today. And it's like, what, what? Like, there was no reason you had to say that, you know? Like, nothing called for that. So yeah, I feel like we're kind of on the fence with several of them. Dorothy's a bad person, so same deal. I guess. What do you guys think? Vote? One's in chat if you think we should tick off people being mean for no reason. Two's in chat if you think it doesn't qualify. Can you do more shitty Dorothy impersonations? Okay. We're seeing a majority does not qualify. We'll have more chances. Okay. Getting closer to a tie, but I think still holding off is winning. Yeah. Okay. So, we are going to wrap up the YouTube side of the stream. We're going to keep going on Twitch for a little while longer. But, YouTube, thanks for joining us. If this was your first time stumbling in, I'm sorry. These books are always crazy, but let me reassure you, we read such a wide range of literature. It's not all this. We just kind of enjoy hate reading these as like junk food. But yes, we will be back live on this YouTube channel again on Thursday night, and then Sunday after that. You can also join the Twitch stream, which Sean has just popped into chat. Thank you. You can follow that link if you want to come and hang out now for a bit longer on Twitch, or just like in the future if you want to catch the Twitch stream instead. We start about an hour-ish earlier, and we just like chat for a while before we start the reading. So yeah, that's that. I'm gonna try to get up some more videos. I just last night posted the first chapter of Carmilla up on this channel, because we've just been reading all the other Sheridan Le Fanu, and I thought if you guys liked those stories, you have to read Carmilla. So I'll have another chapter of that up pretty soon, so keep an eye out for that. All right, and yeah, if you enjoyed this, you know, be awesome if you wanted to like hit that thumbs up or sub to the channel. Either way, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun. We'll read more of this and probably experience more horror on Thursday. All right. Have a good night, YouTube, and see you later. Bye.